Hey, thanks for tuning in to the B3 podcast. I'm your host, Nick Strauss, and I just want to say thank you. I'm here today with local graffiti artist, Robert. How are you?
Thanks for having me, man. I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. Today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the graffiti scene, a lot of maybe the more technical details about the art that you produce, like uh, maybe some local spots we could talk about. There's so much that I've learned about the local street art scene. I was hoping you could maybe enlighten us a little bit more. I guess to start, I would say, what is it that you do when you make a piece?
A piece is whenever you take your time on letters and go from a super legible letter and more artistic and take a lot of time at a spot that's okay to paint for a lot of long extended period. One of the most artistic ways of painting graffiti, I would say. There's also a lot of other ways to express yourself through painting graffiti. It's not just painting pieces. There's like bubble letters, which are throw ups, and simples, which are super legible letters. People also paint portraitures and faces, and it's really about repetition and having some level of consistency through the art and people being able to see the progression over time. And people do graffiti for different reasons. And fame, depression, you know, being up is key. And like having people see your stuff. I feel like criticism is a big thing with art and has always been a big thing with art. And being up and being seen by other people is like a big part of, you know, your love for the thing. I think that everybody that paints graffiti wants to leave a mark for sure.
And so, what about you, Robert? Why do you paint graffiti? What does it mean to you personally?
Graffiti for me is a way for me to express how I feel and, whatever point in time I am in my life, People do, like I said, people do graffiti for different reasons, and I think mine also, you know, kind of shifts as well. I only paint graffiti whenever I want to paint graffiti, but my motives behind painting graffiti changes. Sometimes I will be in a really stressed out mood, and maybe painting graffiti is a way for me to focus in on like just having a good time. And then other times I'm painting graffiti as like a way of like really like almost like a competition. It's, you know, I think that also like sometimes I paint graffiti for I'm like angry, and sometimes I paint graffiti because I'm wanting to do something extremely artistic. I think that that holds true with a lot of other people that paint graffiti as well. I don't know exactly why everyone paints graffiti, but that's my reason for painting graffiti. It changes throughout time, and like I might be painting for as just a way of getting through whatever I am. whatever I'm feeling in that day, in that time.
It's interesting to see, yeah, what motivates people to do the things that they do in general. But with graffiti, it's interesting to me because it's like there's two worlds. There's the legal world where you can go do a piece, uh, some of the places around, and then there's like the whole illegal world of, uh, I know that not all graffiti is legal. There's got to be most of the stuff you see on private property is not legal. On trains is not legal, and there's like that whole world. I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about what that is all about.
Well, that goes apart with like, you know, being competitive and like being up in your city. I think that everybody strives to be like up as much as possible in cutty spots, like places where people don't go. It's also about being up under trestle bridges and on highway spots and sidewalk spots in the middle of the town, and being up on dumpsters and trash cans with hand styles. But you also have to weigh in like a risk factor, and with all spots, not just any particular spot. Painting graffiti is like a super illegal thing in most parts of the country, and there's very few legal laws. It's really a culture that's not desired by a lot of the public, I would say. And it's an acquired taste for people that enjoy art. And a lot of people don't understand it. It's something that not everyone accepts, but you have to put in their face and let it soak into their minds. I think whenever you get caught painting graffiti, that you are handcuffed and taken downtown because it's a felony. It's really destruction of property, and like in most people's eyes, it's not art or something beautiful or something that somebody thought about. They just say it's just graffiti. People, whenever you get caught for graffiti, sometimes they'll make you buff it, but sometimes they'll have the state buff it, and it costs a lot of money to have your store be painted over or buffed, which is really that gray paint that you see on all the underpasses and like on the sides of buildings. There's also like other ways of getting rid of graffiti, which is using a air compressor and spraying it and getting it pushed off the wall. Sometimes it doesn't get all the paint off, but it does a pretty good job of getting most of what's on there off. It's really a tactic of just fighting graffiti and keeping it off walls in general, because like I said, a lot of people don't enjoy seeing graffiti. They are scared, or they just have no concept of what it even means.
It's weird to me, all the buffing, because it looks so bad. It's like all that gray and brown splotches are still on the buildings. You might as well have left the art there, honestly. And I think people are always so worried about property values, especially in a place like Asheville. They're like, it's funny. It's just so ironic. You see these horrible looking like buff spots all over the city where there was once like probably beautiful art. But yeah. Anyway, I want to ask about like the nature of graffiti.
The nature of graffiti is around here makes a lot of money for the city and brings in a lot of people that love the art and want to see it. And it's where you have a big clash of people that enjoy seeing art and letters and different ways of style writing and expressing themselves, and then you have the legal side combating with the painting on illegal spots. And graffiti is really about repetition and being up and, putting it where people are going to be uncomfortable and leaving that mark is really what graffiti is about, like being seen by everybody, not just people that know about graffiti.
Yeah, that's like it just goes with like all the levels of graffiti itself. It just seems like there's so many like reasons and interpretations, you know. The one of the final things I wanted to ask you about the scene was just is there any issues with like violence or criminal activity, drugs? Like, what is it like to be a part of that scene?
I definitely think that graffiti can become almost ferocious sometimes, and that beef happens for sure, and like that everybody, it's kind of like the real world, like people have their differences and sometimes it clashes, and when you have people that come from different backgrounds and are doing graffiti for different reasons, it produces a lot of different kinds of people that are painting, it's not one kind of person. You can't tell what a graffiti person is going to look like because there's so many different people that paint graffiti. There's definitely a lot of people you meet. So when you're meeting people, I definitely would say you meet some people that sell drugs and live a lifestyle of someone that's on the edge constantly and doesn't fuck with the law in all senses. I definitely think graffiti is, for some people, is a way of, saying fuck the system. And and fighting is a big thing that happens in graffiti when people beef. And beefing is when someone goes over somebody repetitively, or you can also see differences with gang rivalry. I mean, obviously, like in somewhere that has gangs affiliated like that and are painting graffiti for those kinds of reasons. But graffiti is mainly a artistic way of expressing yourself, and I think that there's a competition that comes with that, and sometimes people have their differences and squash them in different ways, whether it be giving someone some paint or fighting somebody physically, or having to paint over them until they just stop painting over you and you just never see them. There's a there is a fine line, and it definitely is staying on top. It's a it's a coverage sport. Is what people say whenever they're beefing.
Yeah, it sounds intense, but I guess it's sort of the same with a lot of different scenes. But the competitive nature really adds a wow factor, like a wild card to the whole thing, in my opinion, at least. um, I guess if I had like one final question for you, it would just be like, where do you hope to go in the future with this art, and what do you hope to do?
Being that I am not up right now, I paint graffiti when I want to, but I try my hardest. And I think for me, graffiti is going to evolve to something more serious later on in my life. But at the moment, I am just honing in my skills slowly. And I want to push this as far as I can possibly push it. But I'm not seeking anything other than my own self-gratitude and seeing how far I can push myself. And it's about the fame, but it's also about knowing how far I can push myself. And I love painting graffiti. It's something I want to do for the rest of my life.